Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation, what is sensorality? So we've produced another rather massive result. So we've kind of again introduced or shown that you can have analysis, what is logic to analysis? This process of establishing a fact is what I would say is a proof, but analysis, the overall scientific process. You have some sort of idea, you interact with the world, you have some sort of logical structure, which is really anticipation, or you produce expectation. This happened, this happened, this happened, so therefore I think this is going to happen. And then you kind of test that with an experiment or with data to some extent, and you come to a conclusion, that whole scientific process being analysis. And so you've always seen analysis or calculation certainly with an equation sign. 1 plus 1 equals 2, right? But equality is this establishment of identity. 1 equals 1, I am me, so on and so forth. And so the big result, again, I wasn't really sure where I was going with that, but I almost made an episode last night, and then once I go to sleep, when I wake up, it's like I start all over again, so there's a ton of kind of results, I guess. But the big one is right, we're discussing this spelling and what analysis is. Do you need an equation sign to establish analysis? And the answer is no. And so I've already proven that, I've already done that, and that's what we're demonstrating with sensorality. Well, again, in general, keep in mind, what I'm doing is just developing intellectual property because this derivation is continuously going on for me. Like there's no end or stop for me. There's parts where you can just simply state proofs, but derivation is more to this analytical process of constantly processing information. And so the word analysis is spelled, I'm sure one word pops out to a lot of you sick individuals, but there's an ly in there, right? Right, A-N-A-L-Y-S-I-S. And so, right, what is that ly, right? We're back to this result. I told you it was going to come back up, but I think it was needlessly is needles sly, and literally uniquely with the letters. And so sly is this other word where it has this ly, and then slyly, and I think is, again, it's this form of this word where it's like s, this iteration element, then ly, this double iterate, like this, well, that's what I'm calling iteration, just the same thing 2 times in a row. And then generally in linguistics, or the structure of language, most adverbs end in ly. And so in the same way we have the word coordinate, and it's very clearly, everyone kind of knows that when you're spelling coordinate and you spell C-O-O, there's really a hyphen in there. Like we have Google, we have autocorrect, fantastic. And it says, no hyphen, and there's not a little red squiggly line, and you pat yourself on the back and you say, I spelled a word correctly. And now we're like, it's not really going on so great. But regardless, is we have the same kind of, I don't know if I want to call it reciprocity or what word to describe this, but when we had this cumbersomeness with any word that, like, officially, I had a short and I said officially special was the title of the short. And naturally it spelled it official, then ly, and just added another ly, no red line, fantastic. But there should be a hyphen in there. In the same way you have coordinate, and it's not really, and you just kind of drop the hyphen and just stuff it together because of this irreducibility of language. You cannot reduce a word. And then when you same way, it's an addition or continuation of the sound E, right? Table, table E, salt, salt E. And like literally it's the ly, but then you're just modifying the consonants a little more. And so most adverbs end in ly, and anytime you have this linguistic structure where it's like officially, there should be a hyphen there. That's what's going on. That's why every single person, a lot of times word will end in an al, and you're like, do I just put a y there? Do I put an ly there? It's because there should be a hyphen. And there are more words that don't have hyphens in them than do. And the reason hyphenation emerges is because of this linguistic chronology, like direct order, like words go in a certain order, and then you have this logical structure where you have kind of like unnatural uses of language, such as coordinate, or you just put E at the end, it's salt, it's like salt, it's salt E. So that was a big result, and that's definitely true. Again, I've already derived these results, but that was fun to derive again. And so that is why it's cumbersome when you have a word that ends in an L. It's like, do I put another L? Do I just put a Y? That's what's going on for sure. And so that is what is, again, back to the linguistic structure of the word analysis. In needlessly is needles sly. That's what's going on, and we're back to that result. That is probably the most random result in all of this. But we needed to derive that ly for analyticality, analysis. And so again, by saying speciality is special with an ity, that is the conclusion, the completeness of the first derivation of an axiom. And so it's already been done. Like I said, this complete analysis process by direct iteration without an equation sign has already been completed. And that's what we're doing when I'm saying finding the stabilizing syllability for sensorality. So that was a huge, massive result. What is spelling to pronunciation? Right? Spelling, here I was thinking, when you literally put letters to words, right? When I read a word, I'm tracking the syllables. I'm producing the pronunciation by tracking the syllables. Movement is change only movement? Linguistically, logically, is the word change unique to meaning movement? Is there any other way change can happen? As if besides something moving? I would say no, because everything's moving. But again, logically trying to assert, or at least pose the question that the word change can only be in reference to movement. Movement is momentum, and I had that as the fundamental theorem of physics. Movement is momentous. Momentum is discrete. Right? We have this all or nothing response you see it a lot in biology, frankly an orgasm, but just any sort of firing of like your neurons, right? The synapses will say it's all or nothing. That's kind of like the verbiage presented in biology. And so momentum is discrete. Are equations official? Inflate my microphone. That was a good little section. I hope my microphone stayed on. Yeah, it looks like it did. But again, are equations official? Just posing your logic to equate official and equation, and we renormalize logically. Essential is official. And then, again, over email, I restated the fundamental theorem of logic as, again, linguistically renormalized sensorality is essentiality, but equality is essential, right? No one's going to debate that. And so we're getting into this form again where it's just like going to be a direct iteration of the letters. But now continuing the fundamental theorem of logic, equality is essential. And quality, or equality, is quality with an E in front of it. So again, we're bridging all of this stuff into like emotion. Regardless, we're just getting to this stabilizing section of language. So now when I'm saying syllability, I kind of want to say syllability is spelling, right? The ability to be a syllable. You order syllables, that is spelling. So syllability to me right now is functionally spelling. Sentences are equations. Sentences are structured, right? Sentences are equations. It is what it is. Anytime you're putting the word is, we are directly equating. That's the same thing. That's the logical generalization of the equation sign. But then again, we've introduced this inversion to opposition, still some remnant intuition there. If anything else comes up, I'll talk about it. But this differentiation process, when you only have one thing, it has to kind of be like internal. And so point being is we can have this iteration, which is like iteration. What I've been saying iteration this whole time is encapsulating this process of inversion, opposition, stabilization, presenting completeness, dichotomy. But the word is the equation sign. We've already said this again. We've already done all these steps. But words are spelled, sentences are structured, words are spelled. Sentences are the context of words, right? Spelling a word constructs a variable, and its context defines it. Sentences are the context. I feel like I just dropped off on something with the sentences are equations. Oh, again, but this completeness of analysis just by iterating a given word or a given concept, right? Sensorality. is what we're iterating. And so an equation, these two discrete things in math class, when you have cross multiplication to have some sort of definitive calculation analysis, you're already working in a structure with an equation sign, but it's like an extremely limiting case where we can have completeness of analysis by this inversion, iteration, cycling process. Again, which has already been proven done with speciality. It's not me saying kind of maybe, we're not there yet with sensorality, but it's already been done, and that's like the huge step. But it's not a huge step. It's just the step that shows all of this logic already, but you're already functioning on it because you speak words. What is a tense to a sentence, right? Tension is the potential for change. Energy is the potential for movement. Power is energy velocity, right? And that makes sense. If something, energy velocity, power is energy velocity, so the potential for movement and how fast can that movement occur? How fast can something change is power. If you're a powerful person, you can get something done really quickly. If you have a lot of electricity, if you have a big power generation station, you can power a lot of homes. And so those feel like the relevant physics things to have in mind. But what is a tense to a sentence? Again, with this completeness and consistency with language, you conjugate a verb. We have this agreement between a noun and a verb. And so in these base words, that section is this irreducibility, where we have some association of a sound to meaning. And the meaning comes from experience. We're human beings with the same body, and we can look and say, oh, that person's wincing, he's in pain, or in discomfort, or whatever. But tension is the potential for change. And so when you conjugate a verb, it generates a verb tense. All movement is forward is why time only moves forward. Biggest thing throughout all, like in the history, structure, development of physics, time is not anywhere philosophical. None of this shit is philosophical, but time is the least philosophical of all the big questions posed. It's just a measurement of inefficiency. If we're all trying to get shit done and it's like, hey, we should, link up somehow, it's like timing. That's what all it is. And so again, historically, I don't get the big, ooh, what is time? Time is just an illusion. Nope, you definitely live, you definitely die, you definitely metabolize, you get older. Sure, it's relative. You can say, the planet over there, they aged, the time is local, sure, but all properties are pretty much local. Again, the observable universe is a locality. And so historically, I don't get the big, why does time exist? It just limits entropy. It increases order. It's efficient. Financial is official. Authority is official. Sensorality is sociology, right? The entire structure, sociological. How do society, that SCIO, right? We're encapsulating those letters. But just the structure of society, right? Sociology is the science of society. Sensorality is sociologicality. Sensorizing standardizes. So now when I wrote that theorem, the intuition was, when I say filter or censoring, am I adding to something, or am I I'm definitely differentiating? Am I making one pile bigger? Am I making another pile bigger? Am I just sorting? Again, still trying to show this direct iteration of sensorality. Sensorizing, to me, again, that's kind of logically a sanitizing. If we have a data breach, we're going to sanitize the servers. We're going to delete all of the information. And so when we're doing that, right, standardizing, you're kind of limiting speciality. You're limiting what is special, what is different. Sensorizing standardizes. Sensorality standardizes. Analysis is scientific. Is analysis definitive? Yes. Right, and that exists because mass has an absolute size. Sensorality is paralysis. Sensorality is paralyticality. Again, just showing this iteration of this ly. We kind of started with the big result today. Analyticality, catalyticality. Sensorality is analyticality. Rhythmic, analytic. Equality is essential. Sensorality is equalitality. The base of power now is O. And we show that fundamental inversion, right? All of these things are now, we've shown our inverses. Rhythm and vibration, inverses. Energy, entropy, inverses. infinity, infinitesimality, inverses. But owe and own, inverses. If you owe something, you don't own it. And we show that, again, that direct result with the N and the E. Equity is ownership. Acceleration is change. Sensorality is change. Change angle. Again, pointing out the structure of the word, A-N-G, right? And it's kind of similar to ing, but it's an A, showing the direct iteration of the vowel. Sensorality, angles. To angle is to position. Right? Get in a good position. Oh, I got a good angle on it. I can see it. But now, with our analysis, we can kind of, again, logically have a reason to modify our word, right? Especially. Right? We had that on there before, and it autocorrects. It shows up on your phone, and it says that's what you're trying to say. But there's a hyphen in there. And so we can take from our base words, again, the ES at the beginning, again, showing you this, again, the complete iteration of the letters, which just is, like, who knows? But this is what you have to do to show the completeness. And so the essential, right, that's a word we all use. The ES is, you can very clearly, without much convincing, that comes from something else, or it's not, you can kind of just chop that part off. But then you have essential and special. And we can take off the ly from especially or essentially because of this analysis we just provided. There should be a hyphen. It's a linguistic result of this irreducibility of word. And again, words are the sounds you're making, not the letters that you're representing them. And so that is definitely the big, again, I would say that's somehow the fundamental theorem of linguistics. Adverbs modify verbs, which seems painfully obvious. And we could literally say, you know, AD modifies verb to create adverb. Painfully simple, but logically we've produced that result. And so, but it's a huge result in general, and then for our specific solution, sensorality, that especially and essentially doesn't have an ly. It's not natural. And so we take it down to essential, S-E-N-T-I-A-L, and special, S-P-E-C-I-A-L. And so then, again, the P to the P in special, we haven't quite gotten that out, I guess. But again, it's a unique theorem. Sensorality, we're going to have a unique theorem that we're going to reduce in the same, you know, you take out a bit of logic. The base of power is O, and then you generalize it. Again, we're going to show that to produce the new word form for the next axiom, which is really an iteration element, right? Sensorality, S, iteration element, N, some sort of base syllable thing in a proto form, another S, and then ality, the generalizing thing. And so again, we're showing again the evolution of language, but you can only do it uniquely through these axioms. And so this next word form is going to be the same for everybody. You just watched me do this whole process, which, Jesus fuck, I do not want to do this again. Certainly not without payment. Holy fuck. And I still don't want to do one more second of my life without payment, but what are you going to do? And so, but it will directly produce the next linguistic form that you would have to iterate all of this logic through. And so it proves the form of all solutions, which again has already been proven. These results have already been proven. This is not something that has to be done in the future. It's completely done right now. It just has not been done by me for sensorality at the most finalizing end parts. Oh my goodness. But regardless, it will be, again, you would have to do this entire logical derivation, and it'll be through in using this word form, and it has to be, and that's part of the proof. So we finish up today with sensorality is sentiality. S-E-N-T-I-A-L-I-T-Y. So again, to add a little more insight, again, something to do, I keep saying it, but something to do with working that I in and out of the word form is definitely like the most intuitive part of this aspect of this iteration for me. And so the I is back in there. I don't know. But every episode is hugely poignant. Again, my rights continue to be violated. And yeah, I want payment. That's all I want. I don't care about publication, acknowledgement, nothing. My life is hell every minute of every day, and I want that to stop, and that stops with money. That's just the truth. And again, it doesn't have to be money, a time frame, but I've given up on that. Like, fuck, holy shit. Allow me to live my life with some quality. Currently, it is 0. I keep documenting that with every episode because it is true. It is illegal. It is torture. No one cares. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.